The biggest project that we're really coming out of is the Reframed Initiative. The whole idea behind Reframed was to look at the market transformation that's needed for supply to begin to trust that the demand was there, for demand to trust that supply was going to be able to solve the problems that they're putting forward. We are interested in the policy and financial conditions that are needed to support growth in both of those areas. And so really we took a market transformation perspective in formulating our approach for the Reframed Initiative. And core to that was pulling together the Reframed Lab, which entailed design teams who each were assigned their own buildings. We worked with different social housing providers. We worked with BC Housing as well as Metrofan Housing Corporation. And through their process, request for proposal process, they identified the design teams who would take on each building. And we hosted a series of workshops. Ironically, during COVID, made it possible to work with a broader scope of buildings. So one of the buildings that participated in Reframed Lab is in Kamloops. One is in Victoria, and then the other 4 are in the Lower Mainland. And so this was another one of those funny moments where COVID opened an opportunity. We worked for 6 months with these design teams and walked them through an expanded design process that included more than just doing typical energy modeling, more than just, even typical carbon performance modeling. We started them off with thinking about how is this building performing from, the human side? How do people engage with the building? What are the problems with it? So that involved, pre-retrofit surveys, for example, doing interviews, and then bringing in subject matter experts who could help the teams look at health, well-being, climate resilience, seismic resilience. And so we were easily 4 months in before teams put solid engineering efforts into the energy and the carbon designs and modeling. It was such an interesting process. Despite being online, and all of us had that exhaustion of being on a screen all the time, and despite our worries that people would be proprietary about their ideas or even their processes, we found that industry was just craving this opportunity to work in this kind of sandbox. And we would get feedback that nerding out over a mechanical engineering problem just put people back in that context of being in school and being able to play with ideas and projects, and it was real time, and these were real projects, and so they were also really invested in it because they were being paid to do this work and they were interested in the outcomes. And so the rate of participation was well past what we expected. There were at least 70 people participating in every workshop, which were kind of every 2 to 3 weeks. This was no small investment in time. And they're still engaged. We are hearing about those design teams still talking about that process and adopting things that they learned into their own practices, such as thinking about, how are decisions impacting the embodied carbon, so the carbon that's built into the materials that they're choosing to put on the buildings. How are we, integrating human health and the opportunities to tackle a potential seismic weakness while, improving the envelope, which was just due for replacement anyway. So we really raised kind of the thinking about planning for synergies, thinking holistically about the buildings, and really genuinely putting forward effort into that holistic design. Even if it meant that you're looking at some activities that might not happen in the next few years, but getting a plan together that allows the building owner to replace the boiler that isn't quite ready and be ready for, say, electrification, for example. It was a really rich really rich experience.